Greetings, citizens, and thanks for tuning in to Nindie Nation. I'm Jeff, and today is our 150th episode. As usual, this week we're taking a look at every new indie game hitting the Nintendo Switch through July 3rd, but we're also making some changes around here. In an effort to get more content on the channel in a timely, consistent manner, we're cutting out the deals section in the hope that it provides enough extra time to make a dedicated deals video every other Friday. This should get us back to new episodes on Tuesday with a deals video that lines up closer to when the eShop sales go live. It's a work in progress though, so please keep the feedback coming as we go through these changes. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter and consider joining our Discord server, especially if you're looking for a steady stream of deals. Also, if you want to see a couple of this week's new releases in action, stop by this Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern for our Nindies at Night stream. Now it's time to get down to business because we've got a lot to cover, citizens. So as usual, let's kick things off by taking a look at both of the neglected Nindies that released since episode 149. So first up, we saw Red Deer Games drop Gum Plus, a black and white ASCII art push-the-block puzzle game, but launching with a 75% discount, making it just $1.99 right out of the gate gives me, I don't know, all kinds of shady vibes. And Microids made an escape room game based on the Fort Boyard TV show called, wait for it, Escape Game Fort Boyard 2022! And you can just treat that one as me saving you $30. But get this. Those were the games that didn't make the Nindie No-No list, so wait, what's that sound? Oh, of course, it's the garbage truck backing up to the eShop. Let's see what they've got. Soroka Games is back this week with 36 JPEGs that have crap for you to tap on in Snug Finder. And if that isn't the name of a game made by tossing a bunch of crap into a blender, I don't know what is. Oh wait, yes I do, because PixArts made Archery Escape, a crappy Angry Birds port that doesn't work with 2 of the Switch's 3 modes of play. Random Spin Games wants you to spend 99 cents to, quote, earn your first money by pressing a Y button in Cyber Engine. And hey, we've got a Nindie newcomer this week. They're called Cam Gam, which I've heard stands for Keep All My Games Away, Mom. For $10, they just barely ported Airborne Motocross, a thing where you ski jump a dirt bike and then glide to see how far you can go. It's like Monkey Target from Super Monkey Ball, but, you know, bad. And speaking of bad, Boom Hits is trying to one-up the first level of Superman 64 with Superhero Flying School for $9.99. 5BN Studio! What do you think BN stands for? I'm gonna guess it's Bad Nindie. But if you want to try the point-and-click adventure game they made called The Legacy Forgotten Gates before dropping $7, there's a demo available. But you'd probably have more fun picking at your belly button lint. Oh, and another fairly new Nindie Never is Cooking and Publishing, and they've found a way to not only rip off a free Rubik's Cube game, but then they made it not work with controllers. Basically, Puzzle Cube Magic Urbic game is a lot of words that amount to nothing of value. Kinda like Cooking and Publishing. And finally, my favorite this week has to be Real Car Driving Simulator and Parking 2022 Games. Why? Is it because it's the same mobile driving game we see every week, but this time it's all about, parking? Nope. Is it because at $15 it's one of the most expensive free mobile games we've ever seen on the Switch? Not even. No, it's because this is the first time in over 4 years of running Nindie Nation that I see absolutely zero indication of who is responsible for this game. I looked. For our intents and purposes, it's probably safe to assume that this title was created by Al-Qaeda and secretly mines personal information from your home network before exploding into a pile of ash. I know you're not going to check any of those out, so let's keep this train rolling. These are the 18 Nindies hitting the Nintendo Switch through Sunday, July 3rd. About 7 years ago, I was driving out of my neighborhood, and just as I reached about 40 miles an hour on the road, I heard a thud. That thud turned out to be my brand new Samsung Galaxy Note 4 hitting my trunk as it fell off the roof of my car. I share this story because on that day, I learned the answer to the question asked by the title of this week's first game. A Priori Digital poses the question with their $10 release of Can Androids Survive? And, at least based on my experience, no, they cannot. In their game, however, you play as a hulking mech who acts as a battle courier. With fuel to watch, disastrous terrain to navigate, and all the dangers one would expect from a war zone in 2143, you are responsible for piloting your mech through all of it to deliver supplies that keep the Starbound Alliance going. It's a pretty cool concept, almost like a Death Stranding, but with less Norman Reedus. It looks a bit janky, but it's also stylized in a way that kinda makes it work. And for $10, I think it's worth considering. Also on the 28th is, oh, what's this? Squish? Why, I know what you are. You're a
zany multiplayer party game with a gimmick!
And that gimmick is kinda everything. There's apparently a rave going on in the underworld, and it looks like a 2D Smash Brothers infused with Bomberman. But you get points by, I give up. Here's the description straight from the horse's mouth.
A spoopy, squishy, and fast-paced party game where you and up to 3 gooey friends rave it up in an underground crypt as it collapses down on you. You must push blocks, dodge, and jump to survive the rave and squish your opponents. Last Skelligoo standing takes it all.
It seems fun, I think, and the developer is Grave Rave Studios. Not sure that $15 is the right price, but the game looks cute. On Wednesday the 29th, Sometimes You is back, hot on the heels of last week's hilarious Why Pizza, with a 2D action game that looks to be part run-and-gun and part Metroidvania, or exploration platformer. Hillbilly Doomsday launches for $3.99 after a 20% discount and puts you in the shoes of a hillbilly saving the world from a zombie apocalypse. The game is definitely heavy on the action, and you're always picking up coins to buy weapons, upgrades, and all of that kind of stuff. I want to check this one out, but I have to ask, why are the slimes rolling around on the ground carrying coins? I guess that's just video game logic. And then we see yet another Nindie newcomer, this time named River Crow, who releases an M-rated visual novel that has a twisted premise. Corpse Factory is all about a website that, if you enter someone's name, they receive a photo of their corpse timestamped with the date of their death. In return, the person who visited the website gets some kind of dark wish fulfilled. Now, I'm not an anime person, if you couldn't tell, but isn't that the same premise as Death Note? Either way, Corpse Factory features branching paths and all that kind of stuff you'd expect from a good visual novel, and it releases with a 10% discount for $17.99. Now here's a release I had no idea was coming, and I bet a lot of you will be excited to see. Edmund McMullen, designer of The Binding of Isaac, is releasing a prequel to his disgusting roguelike with The Legend of Bumbo for $19.99. Originally released for the PC in 2019, this game is quite different than its sequel, but retains a lot of the same vibes. Featuring a cardboard aesthetic, you explore gross dungeons and get into turn-based deck-building battles that kick off with you selecting your attacks through a mini-game that's essentially a variant of Bejeweled or Candy Crush. Afterwards, and in between battles, your experience feeds into a deep system of crafting and upgrading that adds a layer of depth I was always missing from Isaac. Reception was mixed upon its release, with the game scoring in the low to mid-70s from most sites, but most of the reviews can't seem to pinpoint one thing the game does wrong, rather pointing to a general lack of polish overall. So maybe that was fixed in the 3 years since release. Any fans of Isaac gonna pick this one up? Let me know. And then Penguin Pop Games wraps up the Wednesday releases with one of the weirdest games I've seen in a long time. Well, it's not quite Why Pizza, but it's close. The weirdest game I've seen since last Thursday's Nindies at Night. How about that? Taco Tom 2 is like a puzzle game and a visual novel combined, and the vast majority of content I could find about it were videos from Game Grumps. Just look at the backgrounds. It's so weird. I guess the tacos date squids and you have to dash side to side on a screen, collecting ingredients to make a taco without collecting the wrong ingredients? It released on PC in 2018 and then received an update to coincide with the Switch release this week. Yet, even though it was featured on one of the biggest gaming YouTube channels, neither version has a single review on Metacritic. If you liked watching Why Pizza, maybe we should try this one on stream this week? It's only $6, so if you want to experience this, I guess it's at least reasonably priced. Before we get into the big Thursday drop, just like how Taco Tom avoids ingredients that don't belong in a taco, here's a few games that you can avoid that don't belong on the eShop. Weakfish Studio is a new publisher who picked just the right name because Gliding Square is proof that these guys just aren't even trying anymore. If you like farming games, stuff like Story of Seasons, Harvest Moon, maybe even Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley, but you just wish they ran like crap and were chock full of characters with eerily lifeless eyes, Microids has your back with My Universe Green Adventure Farmer's Friends. 11 Sheep ported a mobile game called Fill It, and while I have no idea what you do in this game, the description,
"Be the terror of the fight with nasty power-ups that will make everyone run for their lives,"
is, well, let's just leave this one be. Kawato Studios also ports a mobile game, but this one is the supposed award-winning kids game Dino Tales. This is one of those that probably isn't all that offensive, but as an educational kids game with mini-games, it's not exactly fit for the Nindie Nation audience. Just keep the edutainment stuff on the iPad, okay? And please, God, I hope there's no kids watching this. I love Lumines. And apparently, so does Takahiro Miyazawa, because he ripped it off, gave it a gross interface, and shoved it onto the eShop. Then he did it again, and now this week we see Red, White, Yellow Cruising. Remember, kids, if at first you don't succeed, lower your standards and steal from others. Beasties is the latest by
Just for Games!
And keeping with this segment's apparent theme is at least the third generic Bejeweled port of the week. As Thursday rolls around, Cliax Games releases a simple, no-frills platformer as Salaryman She drops for $4.99, and for as basic as it looks, I do really like its style. While it only features a dozen levels, they all have multiple challenges to tackle as well as different difficulty options, a time attack mode, and two-player races. It does have a demo, which is rare for a game of this size, and that makes me think that the developer has at least some confidence that if you try it, you'll like it and want more. So I'm gonna give it a shot. East Asia Soft graces us with their usual retro-inspired romp with the single-screen precision platformer Black Wolf for $2.99. I don't really see it doing anything differently than all the others in this crowded category, so it's probably wise that they priced it in the impulse buy range. I swear, I don't know what's in the water this week, but we've got another Nindie newcomer with the first release by Lonely Vortex. Sign is a game that feels developed for people like me who love to see the fusion of music and gameplay approached with new ideas. You control a sine wave in an ethereal space and have to complete levels while collecting items on screen and avoiding obstacles. If you don't know what a sine wave is, well, you're seeing the game now, but imagine a roller coaster with two peaks and valleys. That's what you're riding. You can then squeeze more peaks and valleys onto the screen to create faster movement, or stretch it out to slow them down. As you do that, the game reacts, and it's all done with the sounds you make playing out alongside a somewhat fitting backdrop. The best part about this first outing is that it's only $3, so I definitely plan to give it a try. If it's cool, maybe we'll add this to Nindies at Night as well. We're already getting pretty stacked. Arc System Works is another company that's not necessarily an indie studio, but their teams outside of the fighting game ecosystem always seem to be plugging away at smaller, interesting games, so we're gonna see what Ground Divers is all about. It's a strategy puzzle game focused on digging and finding treasure, and the first thing I thought when I saw it was SteamWorld Dig meets Drill Dozer. It leverages roguelike gameplay across 7 stages, so you're getting a new swath of levels with each run. And as you decide which way to dig, you'll balance taking out enemies with finding power-ups as you work your way to the goal. I really like what they're going for here, but I seem to personally be very hit or miss with these one-offs from Arc. So while it launches for $14.99 and I want to try it, I'll probably wait for a sale, a demo, or at least a review. Fear-Demic is an interesting name for a publisher. They've made games like Dark and Ritual Crown of Horns, both of which were decently well received, and this week they bring us
Dark Minute!
Kira's Adventure for $9.99. It takes the mold we're so used to at this point, where you explore a 2D space, find a couple of keys, and reach the end while avoiding traps. But it adds a twist where the levels are a bit bigger, they include a bunch of underwater areas, and it centers around exploring dark caverns with a candle that will, of course, eventually run out of light. Kinda like last week's Ragnar. If you're looking for something new like this, I'll say stick with Ragnar for now, but if it's something familiar with a slight twist you're after, Dark Minute might be for you. And then Secret Item Games, a publisher who's only released a couple of mostly underwhelming clone games, is back and doing it again, but I'm thinking the third time could be a charm. Hourglass is a 3D puzzle game where you roam around Egyptian-inspired areas solving puzzles you'd expect to see in a 3D adventure. You know, block pushing, light shining, the things you do in other games to open doors to secret treasures or whatever. The cel-shaded art is simple, but it's nicely implemented, and there's a mechanic where you make time clones of yourself, which seems like a neat gimmick. Unfortunately, a $25 game launching at half off always gives me pause, so I'll say make sure you check out a review before deciding to invest your time and money. On Friday, we celebrate a lot of great things. Canada Day, the late Princess Diana's birthday, even the 28th anniversary of one of cinema's finest works, Baby's Day Out. But citizens, it is also the Emperor of Nindie Nation's birthday. What? You thought this was a democracy or something? Anyways, surely the eShop has some gems lined up, so let's see what's in store from Sometimes You, who's really been churning out the releases lately. Almost My Floor is a detective point-and-click adventure game that takes place among nightmares. The artwork reminds me of a more serious take on what we see in Penny Arcade, and it features 2 playable characters, so you've at least got a reason to see the story twice. It releases for $9.99 and includes a 20% launch discount, bringing it down to $8. Rainbow Laser Disco Dungeon. Gotta say, I'm interested in name alone here, and it looks like Vector Hat and Thalamus Digital have a neat little 80s-inspired arcade game to justify my curiosity. Dropping for $9.99, this is a twin-stick shooter that feels immediately familiar to those of you who grew up in the era of Atari and Coleco. Each run is randomly generated and sees you running around, upgrading weapons, defeating bad guys, and finding the key that will unlock the next floor. And then featuring a lot of the same elements, but in a different perspective, Game Over Dog releases their first Nindie with Jetboy and the Randomizer of Doom. In glorious 256 by 144 resolution, you play through side-scrolling levels as a little dude named Dave with a jetpack. And we all know things are always better with jetpacks. The story mode will take you through a series of stages, fighting space worms, diabolical machinery, and all kinds of weird space monsters, with an arcade mode that mixes it all up every run. The game really reminds me of last year's Jetboard Joust, but more vertically oriented. So much so that I looked to see if they are related, but I couldn't find any confirmation. It's only $6, and I am very interested in checking this one out, so I think we'll also try to include Jetboy in this week's Nindies at Night. One of the publishers I've seen really find their groove over the last year or so is Untold Games. Titles like Arise, A Simple Story, What Lies in the Multiverse, and Beautiful Desolation are all gorgeous experiences that focus on narrative over anything else, and they're clearly a labor of love aimed squarely at fans of the classic PC games they were inspired by. This week they're at it again with Game Deck, a cyberpunk isometric RPG by Anchar Studios. The world is very Ready Player One-esque, where most people live inside virtual realities and you play as a game deck, or a detective who solves crimes within the virtual worlds. Like in the tabletop RPGs that inspire this genre, character progression is achieved through open-ended choices you make as you meet NPCs and explore every nook and cranny in sight. And as usual in this genre, the game is pricey, coming in at $30, but I expect it to be well received and hopefully justify its price. My only concern here is that apparently the game was at least ported to Unreal Engine 5, though I doubt that's the case for the Switch. So let's wait for reviews just to make sure the performance can hold up before you drop all those digital dollars. Last week I mentioned that we have a ninja action platformer starring a cat, and that's exactly what we've got here with Nin Cat for $9.99. There's not much more I can say about this one. You pick levels from an overworld and then carefully navigate through trap-infested areas where everything wants to kill you. I don't see much combat, so I think it's more focused on the agility of your cat above all else. I do have one concern here though, and that's the publisher, because I have yet to see anything worth buying come out of
Game National!
But that doesn't mean it can't happen, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And finally this week, and as usual, Radaleka Games releases their weekly title alongside Low Tech Games with Parasite Pack for $7.99. This is actually a collection of 2 games, both of which are new to the Switch. The first one being Flea, a challenging platformer where you play as Henry, the hyperactive flea who can't stop jumping. The other half of the bundle is Tapeworm Disco Puzzle. That's weird. 2 disco-themed games in 1 week? Who knew? It's a grid-based puzzle game which shares an 8-bit or NES style similar to Flea. This one seems more interesting to me as you navigate the tapeworm through single-screen puzzles, but honestly, I'm not really feeling either of these. Overall, going into a brand new format, it is a pretty sleepy week on the eShop, but there are quite a few cheaper little curiosities like Hillbilly Doomsday, Taco Tom 2, Sign, and Jetboy, so hopefully we can see a couple of these in action this Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern during Nindies at Night. Anything jumping out to you? Sound off in the comments below, chat with Nindie Nation on Twitter, or come join us on Discord. Otherwise, that's it for this week's new releases. Now, there is a pretty big sale happening on the eShop, so while we're testing out this new schedule, I hope to have another video for you near the end of the week. I'll be looking for your feedback over the coming weeks to see how this new format pans out. And in the meantime, don't forget to like the video and share it with other indie game communities. As always, thank you so much for stopping by today. Until next week, oh wait, no, we're not gonna have an episode next week because I'm going on vacation. Hopefully I don't bring COVID back with me this time. So we'll be back on Tuesday the 12th. Anyways, I'm Jeff. This has been Nindie Nation episode 150. And remember, no matter what type of game you're looking for, Nindie Nation will be right here to help you find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced.